Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, and I am going to be talking about g.l.o.w Season 3, Episode 2. It's called Hot Tub Club. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. And these g.l.o.w reviews are sponsored by one of our patrons, Tim Neal, so thank you to him. So, this episode has 4 plots, which for a 30-minute show is a lot. Like, a lot to keep track of, which, I mean, it's not hard, but, like, it's more than I'm used to in a 30-minute show. I feel like a 30-minute show will have 2 usually tops, and that'll be it. But we have 4 plots in this episode. Main one, of course, being Ruth and Sam. I mean, the episode starts with like a montage of like multiple people having sex. A couple of which set up some plot for the episode. Some of them do not. Bat of Ashes with Britannica. Yolanda and Arthie are together. That was a big one, of course, that sets up that Arthie's very insecure about herself sexually. She's willing to go down on Yolanda, but not vice versa, and that sets up their conflict for the episode. And we see Cherry and her husband, and they're not really that relevant to the rest of the episode. It's just kind of like, hey, here's another one. Here's another one for the montage. But yeah, so let's start with Ruth and Sam, because Ruth and Sam, are the main characters of the show, really, right? Them and Debbie, for sure. Although I do feel like it's become more of an ensemble as time has went on. I feel like we're more of an equal ensemble now with some other characters than we maybe were at the start of the show. So, it's a day off. We realise, because there's a lot of the girls we only see at the start when they're coming in after the night out. And Ruth is sitting working in the restaurant in the hotel, and Sam chastises her for this and says, "What are you doing? This is kind of sad. You're enjoying your day off, damn it, right?" And he grabs the notebook and sends it up to either her room or his room and says, "Come with me, we're going to stroll." And they end up in the casino, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you play some blackjack?" And and she's like, "I don't like gambling. I think it's a waste of money. I don't want to do it." And he's like, "No, okay, look, you can waste my money then." And he puts down 20 and says, "No, you play." He's trying to cheer her up. He's trying to give her some fun. And I actually have a question about blackjack here. And I thought I knew blackjack. I thought I knew how to play blackjack. But I got a bit confused with some numbers here. Because she gets a jack and a 2. And she says that's... And when Sam says, "What have you got?" She says, "That's 12, right?" And I don't agree with that. And the rules that I know, that's actually 13. Jack equals 11. Queen equals 12. And King equals 13. If people agree or disagree with that in the comments, you can tell me. But a 10 is a 10, because it's a 10. Jack's 11. Queen's 12. King's 13. If there's some other like different, if this is a regional thing, if this is a UK US thing where all of the face cards all equal 10 or something like that, then you can tell me. But that confused me. Otherwise, I know how to play blackjack, except the hand waving for the casino etiquette, which obviously Ruth doesn't know either, which is fine. But she wins. The dealer goes a little bit bust, and she's kind of excited. And we cut back to them later, and she's got a big pile of chips. She's been doing well with a bit of guidance from Sam, and she doesn't realize that she's been doing this for 2 hours. And she doesn't believe. And actually, I actually knew this little tidbit that casinos intentionally don't put clocks in their inside on the floors, because they don't want people to know how much time they're wasting. So she's like, "Oh, you hungry? Because I'm hungry." And they go for food, and they end up in not the sort of the just the hotel restaurant. It's like a fancier restaurant, a bar restaurant, and they get some steaks and whatever, and they're bonding, and you were really playing with their chemistry here. We're really playing with this, and they joke a little bit about 2 guys who look like they're in the mob, and they kind of, and she says she's having a nice day, and puts her hand on his arm, and it's actually covering his watch, and she does, "Okay, well, guess what time it is," and I'll guess as well. And he gets it more or less right. She gets it wrong by about 2 hours. And all this, like the hand on the arm, the flirtation, the smelling, everything about it feels like we're really playing with the chemistry. And he's mentioned that he's having a really nice time in Vegas. It's different from before. He's not getting into trouble. He's just relaxing because the work's not actually that hard. He's not having to do it that often. He's getting paid. He's staying in this hotel. He's using the hot tub. He's getting some writing done, and yada yada yada. And this all sort of culminates in a scene where he's in his hot tub. It's the evening later that night, and Ruth comes out to sit with him. And she's got a big smile on her face, and she sits in the hot tub, and he's sitting there. And he finally kind of cracks and says, "Okay, what are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, I thought I'd come and try the hot tub." And he's like, and obviously he made a move last season. He made a move, and it was a moment I wasn't necessarily sure how to feel about. I wasn't necessarily into the idea of them going down any kind of romantic path. I think, though, I've oddly been kind of won over by this scene a little bit. Not in the sense that I definitely want them to get together or anything like that, but I think this brutally honest conversation between Sam and Ruth actually felt more natural to me than the attempted kiss or whatever last season. I think him saying, "Look, I've got feelings." In fact, he says he's in love with her. Like, he flat out says that, and that he's trying to be professional. He's trying to stay in the line, as he puts it, or stay close to the line. But she's making it really hard. She's spending all day with him. She's buying him a steak dinner. She's saying she's having such a great time. All these things, and then she gets in a hot tub with him. It's hard for him not to read this as you clearly are in some way interested in this, even if you're not admitting it. And she's like, I'm not interested in this. Because she says that she doesn't want to ruin what they have. She says, she loves working with them, but that's, she's not romantically interested. And he just flat out says, "I think you are," but for some reason you can't admit it, right? I mean, he doesn't say that last part, but, and yeah, like I think this made this a little bit more interesting. Where, okay, he's got feelings for her. Who can blame him? It's Alison Brie. She's around a lot. And she's feisty and like a nerdy way and smart, and like there's a lot of reasons for him to fall for her. There absolutely is. But I like that she also points out, "You're much older than me," and he's like, "So what? The way you've been looking at me all day, you were thinking the entire time, oh, he's old. That's what you were thinking." And I think them having this brutally honest conversation about why he feels this way, why he thinks that she would be into it, and then her kind of responses to it, made it a lot more interesting to me, because it felt a lot more real after this, where, okay, I understand what we're going through, and if the issue here is more Ruth not willing to admit that she's into this older guy, and not just that he's older, as she points out, he drinks a lot, does cocaine, he's not exactly the catch, in a traditional sense. And I think this was the first, because again, I wasn't really feeling the potential hints at the romance, even though they've got some chemistry. But this scene kind of turned me around and made me feel like they're exploring it in the right way. The attempted kiss last season kind of caught me off guard and made me feel a little bit weird. This felt a lot more like, okay, these are people with chemistry and attraction, and they don't really know how to deal with it. And her especially, Ruth especially does not know how to deal with this. To the point where she's not willing to really admit that this is anything that she wants. And they get interrupted by Tammy, who comes out of the hot tub, and that kind of ends the scene. But I'm definitely more open to exploring this now, and it feels like it has more to say than just having like a will they, won't they. It feels more complicated than that, and I think I really should have trusted this show when they raised this, but I think I didn't, because when they first raised this, it really just was this attempted kiss out of nowhere. And I don't think it was developed enough last season to really make it feel anything other than that. Whereas here, it feels like they're going to explore what the differences between them are, and the pros and cons of this, and how this makes them feel because of their differences. Because it felt really unnatural to me last season, and I think and them actually acknowledging that element and going into it is kind of exciting. So yeah, I'll call this plotline a win. Who we jump to next? Debbie, she has the smallest plot of the episode, because she just kind of is there at the start and the end. But she's on a plane flight back to LA from Vegas to see her son, and she has an interaction with the flight attendant who gives her these little wings and mentions it to her kid is 3. In the give the kid the wings, blah blah. And there's a little moment afterwards where she kind of like takes off the little safety bit and goes, "That's sharp." She doesn't say that out loud, but she sees it, and it's sharp. And when she's on the way back, she's she sees her again, same flight attendant. She's like, "Oh yeah, it's quick turnaround because I only have 1 or 2 days off a week, and my schedule's not easy to deal with. I'm working in LA, or I'm working in Vegas rather." And she turns to this older guy who's sitting in the seat next to her and says, "Hey, do you have kids?" Well, she doesn't say that at first. She says, "Does anyone ever ask you how often you see your kids?" And then kind of apologizes and then asks him if he has kids first. And he's like, "Nah, no one ever asked me anything." And she kind of snaps at the flight attendant when she comes back and says, "My son's still a baby. You have to keep this. I'm not giving it to him." And it's it's kind of this awkward moment, but it's this frustration she feels that she's being judged for having a career away from her baby, and she's feeling guilty, and that kind of obviously rings through to the next scene where she's back in the hotel room and Mark calls her to tell her that her son has taken his first steps, that he caught him just a couple, but he did see this. The real gut punch of this though comes when she asks if his new girlfriend has seen this, and she didn't, and he clearly lies and says no, but the look in his face says it's a lie, and she knows it's a lie. And she says, "Tomorrow will you buy an effing camcorder?" And he's like, he does point out that they had one and she sold it when she sold everything in the house, but he will get a new one. He's not even going to try and pick a fight over this. He's just going to do it. And I think Mark's a dickhead. Mark showed himself to be a dickhead multiple times, especially in season 1. But I think there is a bit of humanity there where he's like, you know what? He genuinely cares that she's missing these things and that she feels bad. That's why he lied, and it's why he's not going to argue about this camcorder. So, a little bit of credit to Mark. A little. I mean, he's still a dick, but it's a good performance from Betty Gilpin. She the tears going down her face as she learns this, and the frustration. Really, really solid. She's always been good in this show at really doing the more extreme emotions, I suppose you'd call them, where she gets to scream or cry or whatever. It tends to really land quite well. So no, also good. Next plotline, we had Yolanda and Arthie, and Yolanda feeling frustrated by Arthie in the bed is wants to go out on her own and get a haircut, and she takes Bash's car. I'll get to that when we get to Bash's plotline because it kind of obviously overlaps a little bit here. And she goes to the salon and she's getting her hair done. So it's just getting washed. She's not even having it cut yet. She's just getting washed, and she starts talking to the hairdresser about Arthie. She disguises it because the woman assumes it's boy troubles, and she keeps referring to Arthie as her boyfriend, and talks about her insecurities and so on. And Arthie comes in, having followed her here, and they start talking in code. It's a really funny scene, especially when Arthie yells out, "He always makes you come," or so I've heard, like through the grapevine. Like, it's a really funny moment. The hairdresser's reaction is quite good, and it's this great little fight. And Yolanda walks off saying, "I don't need a boyfriend." And later, when Arthie runs into her in the hotel, she does get a haircut because Yolanda's left her appointment, so she's got this haircut. So her hair's much shorter now. It's more shoulder length, and she assumes they've broken up. And Yolanda's like, "No, that was a fight. We say things that are mean that we don't necessarily actually intend, and things like that." And Arthie tries to understand, but basically Yolanda explains, because I think Yolanda, as much as I understand her frustration, she does come off a little bit unsympathetic to a point for some of this. So I like this scene because she then explained why she felt the way she did about Arthie, about why Arthie's not letting her sexually please her was upsetting her. It's like, you've learned to do it for me, and it's satisfying for me, but you feel satisfaction in doing it for me, and that's what I'm not getting to do. I want to please you too. And it's a really heartfelt and it's a really simple little plot, but I really like it because the actual because everything up until this scene is almost just a bit of fun to set up the conflict, right? It's just a little bit of fun to have some comedy and show them being mad at each other, and then this scene is the real payoff where we get a bit of bonding. It's a really simple plot, but what it achieves is it achieves both these characters having a little bit of development. Their relationship feels a bit more real than it did last time we saw them. I don't even mean last episode. I mean kind of like, end of season 2. And it feels like they're in this place now where, yeah, okay, we've established where they are in the relationship, and we can maybe know them for a couple of episodes, and then when we come back to them, we'll move further along, and we've just touched in for this stepping stone for them. But it's a sweet scene, and I think when Arthie, because Arthie says, I don't feel sexy like you, I feel uncomfortable doing that, and Yolanda's like, no, you are sexy, like whenever I'm in a room I want to pin you down, and Arthie gets a little bit of confidence and says, then pin me down, and they have a little play wrestle for a second before she pins her down, and yeah, that's kind of the end of the plot, and Arthie, you just see Arthie's face like going to happy mode as Yolanda's going down on her. It's actually very sweet. It's a very sweet little scene. Arthie's a very innocent character and a very sweet character. So it's mostly her side of this that makes it sweet. But Yolanda really comes through when she is able to explain why this is upsetting her. And it just, that's basically it. I don't have a whole lot to add on that. And then the final plot of the episode is, of course, Bash and Britannica. And Bash wants to go to the Hoover Dam and get some touristy photos for their engagement / marriage / whatever. But of course, Britannica throws up on the side of the car the Porsche, which he is very proud of, which is how Yolanda ends up talking him into letting her have the car. She'll go get it washed for him. And just, he takes her back up to the room. He's very hesitant to do so. She's got a migraine and she just wants quiet and for none of them to talk and just to lie down with the lights out. And Bash leaves the room, which isn't necessarily the worst idea. He says, but he doesn't say anything. If he said, okay, I'll leave you alone so you can, and then she'd have a chance to respond, of course, but he just sort of slyly sneaks out without saying anything and goes to Carmen, and Carmen gives him what for, because he asks for help, say, hey, can you go and see her? And Carmen's like, what? We were like best friends and you've not even seen me since we got here. Since you got married, so go be a husband, you dick. I mean, that's the gist of the scene. And we learn that Bash's family weren't very sympathetic or caring during bouts of illness, and they essentially got emotionally quarantined, as he puts it later, to Britannica. And when, and I should say Rhonda, but it's easier to remember Britannica. So he comes in and explains that to her, and she just simply says, well, no, in my family, we were there and we helped them, and that showed you cared about someone. And he sits down very awkwardly, and she rests her head on him, and he holds his finger on the one spot in her head that she wants some pressure on, and he won't shut up, so she has to tell him to shut up, essentially. But it's kind of that cute thing where he's whispering, he's like, you won't even know I'm here, but he keeps talking for like another minute, whispering. And it's he's really trying, and I think despite the fact that I've had speculation that Bash is kind of covering up for his sexuality, which I suspect isn't straight. I suspect he's gay. There is a sweetness to this where he is genuinely trying, and it's not coming from. I mean, it's arguably going to have a very bad ending, and it's a mistake for that reason. But he does seem to be trying to do the right thing here. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it won't go down exactly that path. But I think there was very clear implications last season. Obviously it could be that he's not actually gay. It could be that he is bi or whatever. But yeah. So no, yeah, there was a lot. It was all relationship plots really. When you think about it. Obviously, Debbie, it was more to do with her kid than it was her husband. But everyone else, it was all coupley things. It was Sam and Ruth, it was Yolanda and Arthie, and it was Rhonda and Bash. And So the episode works very well thematically because there's all this through line through all the plots, but that's how they'll split them all up. That's why they're grouped in this way. And the episode flows very well, cutting between them all. As much as I do think 4 plots for one 30-minute episode is maybe a touch on the high side, because when we sat down and went through the plots, they were all pretty simple. They all essentially had 3 beats. They had setup, bit in the middle, payoff. That was all 3. That was all 4 plots, except Debbie's, which only had the 2 scenes. Well, it had 3 scenes, but the scene of her getting in the hotel room was like almost right after the other one, so it doesn't really feel separate in my head. But they essentially had 3 beats in each one, and very simple but very effective. And I like episodes like this because it really, I think it can't always be about the wrestling show or like something big and dramatic. Sometimes it's nice to slow down and just spend time with the characters and where they are emotionally. And I think doing it in this way and just seeing a little bit of each of them. And I suppose it's worth mentioning that, Cherry, the one thing we get out of her scene with her husband is that they are trying to get pregnant. So there's a little plot beat there. There's a little bit. So obviously some of the girls we don't really see much of, if at all. And I'm sure we'll see more of them next episode. But for the sake of this one, it was essentially a trip through all the romances in the show, not including Russell, of course, because he's not here. And of course, there's a sticky pickle now of Ruth thinking about her feelings for Sam and where that might go. And no Gina Davis this episode either, and still no Justine. Although IMDb still has her in the credits, and it says credit only, which implies she's still a regular this season, but it's just not appeared yet. So I suspect we'll see her. So here's hoping. But no, solid episode. Advanced all the character plots a little. Well, not all of them, but all the primary characters, and it gave them all nice little emotional beats. Obviously, the big one was Ruth and Sam. Like I think that hot tub scene was definitely the highlight of the episode because it kind of exposed some things, and it actually turned me around on an element of the plot that I wasn't really feeling before, and that's a success. But you can't call it anything else than that. So there you go. That's episode 2 of Glow. I'll be back with episode 3. It should be on Monday. So thank you very much for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. You can keep watching TV and all that. That was not what I usually say at the end of this. I apologize. It's really late. It's like almost 5 a.m. right? This is loopy recording time. Hopefully my train of thought through it that was still eligible. But yes, you can of course support the show and everything we do here over at patreon.com/MaileFuzzTV, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses and exclusives. Of course, there's higher tiers such as the sponsorship tier at $10, which of course Tim Neal is part of because he sponsors this show. You get to choose one TV series of reviews and sponsor it. And there you go. So yeah, also like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. Guys on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, that is me. So thank you once again for watching or listening. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?